Today we get to sit under the tutelage, yeah, that's right, I said tutelage, of the great Phineas, famous brother and producer of pop star Billie Eilish. Whether you're a fan of their music is irrelevant. There's a lot we can learn from Phineas, especially since he came from the home studio world just like you and me. Wisdom comes from learning from others, and that's what we're going to do today. By the way, tip number 4 is my favorite and something you just don't hear enough in the music production world today. In case we haven't met yet, my name's Joe Gilder. I've been coaching musicians in the home studio world since 2009, and today I want to share 4 tips that I learned from Phineas using 3 different videos, 2 of which are from the Tape Notes podcast. Links to everything in the description. Be sure to check them out and give them a sub. All right, let's jump in.
I knew a little bit of piano. I was sort of a remedial pianist, remedial guitarist, so I would play the 2-3 chords I knew and, make up words and melodies over that. And that was really how I wrote everything for the first 5 or 6 years. Like, that was the only way. And then I started, bands with my friends in high school. And then it was a fun, I'd have a great drummer and he'd play a beat and that would maybe inspire like slightly more rhythmic lyrics and melody. And that was exciting.
Okay, first takeaway from Phineas. He mentioned playing with a great drummer and that inspiring a whole different set of creativity for him. Better musicians make for better creativity. It's obvious on some level, but a lot of us home studio folks are plagued by the DIY virus just because we can technically program everything or play everything somewhat. We think might as well. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's something very innately human about getting in a room with other musicians and making music. I did this just days ago. My good friends Tim and Joel came over. Tim brought his drum kit, Joel brought his bass rig, I had my guitar. We recorded a song. It was a soul-filling experience, and I would argue the music is better as well. Even if the music's not better, the experience is better, and that is worthwhile too. Now, what I'm not saying is you can't do great work alone, but if you never make music with other musicians, you're missing out on a huge potential boost to your creativity in the moment while you're playing with them, and also just in the future. You'll think more like a musician who's playing with other people versus just thinking in terms of solo producer.
Our mom does write songs. She never, made a living out of it really at all, but wrote songs as kind of a hobby. And when we expressed a little bit of interest when we were young, she sort of was like, well, there's no wrong way to write a song, but let's talk about song structure. Let's talk about what a bridge is and what a rhyme scheme is. Once you're able to identify those things, you're able to identify a lot of commonality in music. And then you can break all those rules, but it's cool to know them and understand them. But there was never any production, but in terms of songwriting, it was really fun. It was cool. She'd sort of be like, because I think sometimes as a songwriter, you feel a lot of pressure to express your innermost, really bare your soul. And she really instilled in us a kind of yes, but also you could just write a song that's made up, that's about something else. And I remember one time she sort of suggested that we write a song about a plot of a TV show, you put yourself in the shoes of some character on TV. It's very liberating. And I think about the sort of scope of our career now, and I think that's one of the reasons doing something like the James Bond song felt so natural to us, was because we'd sort of had this childhood of an awareness of writing about somebody other than yourself, and It takes the pressure off. Sometimes you're not going through heartbreak, and it's writing a song about heartbreak would be inauthentic if you were I have to feel it.
The second tip from Phineas: songwriting doesn't have to be personal. Inside my songwriting course, there's a link in the description. The first assignment I give people is to spend 15 minutes writing in a journal. Now, the reason for this is because a lot of people struggle with lyrics, but then they never spend any time putting pencil to paper writing words. The only time they do that is when they're trying to write a song, and that's not enough repetitions to get good at bringing words out of your brain and putting them on paper in some sort of semblance of normalcy that makes sense and can be cohesive. However, if you're in the habit of journaling regularly, you're in the habit of putting words on paper, and the songwriting and lyric writing process becomes a little bit easier. The other piece is, for me, my songs are almost always personal. They're, from my perspective, they're autobiographical to an extent. I'm expressing my emotion, and that's to me, that's a big part of why I make music. It's a creative and emotional outlet for me. It's a way for me to express what's going on inside on the outside. However, hearing Phineas say this I felt myself feel like a tension relief in my shoulders, because yes, while writing songs that are personal is great, and I love that, and it's necessary for me, it's fun to remember that that's only one option of writing songs. I can write songs that are just stories, for example. I'm not great at writing story songs. I don't write lots of story songs, but they can be really interesting. Or one thing that I'll do is I'll write a song where I'm singing to someone. I'm saying you. And a lot of times the you is really me, but you can frame it in a way that's you're not quite as connected to it. So you can say some things to you that you might not say about yourself. For example, there's a song I wrote called It's Okay. And I'm singing to myself, really, but the chorus goes, don't you know it's okay to be broken? So I'm singing it to you, but I'm also singing it to me. But I love this idea, and I kind of want to challenge myself to go find a movie or a TV show and pick a character in a moment and write something from that perspective to kind of break myself from that need to always make it about me. Hello, narcissism.
I'm just trying to keep the equilibrium. And I feel like generally I can feel innately when something is tipping the scale and sort of ruining the balance of everything. And it is all sort of like placing things really delicately and making sure that it holds. And then if it holds, maybe adding something else. But oftentimes, especially from a stereo perspective, it's like if something's going on over here, something's going on over here, so that it balances.
I love that. I've been talking about that for years, the idea of balance. People get bored with the word balance, but recording engineers were literally called balance engineers before it became more formal. It was all about just balancing things. And there's 3 types of balance. There's level balance. Are the drums way quieter than the guitars? That's not great. There's stereo balance, like he was talking about here. Is everything up the middle? That's kind of boring in mono. Is it lopsided? There's cool stuff on the left, but nothing on the right to kind of balance those things out? Or is there a balance between left, center, and right? I don't feel like it has to be quite as delicate as he said. I like to just slam something to the left and then slam something else to the right, but you do you. And the third type of balance is frequency balance. Is there too much of a certain frequency range? Maybe I put a bunch of thick stuff in the song. Now the song feels thick and kind of muddy. I got to deal with that either by producing it, adding some bright stuff, or in the way that I mix it. But I'm thinking every time I'm recording anything, I'm thinking in terms of all 3 forms of balance. Volume balance, stereo balance, and frequency balance. By the way, do you have a music community? A place online where you can share your latest project, get feedback, support, accountability? If not, come take my VIP Gold membership for a test drive. Go to homestudiocorner.com/VIP to check it out.
A mastering engineer when I was like 13. I called him and was like, how do I make my song loud? Which is such a thing you say when you're first figuring out how to learn how to produce music. He told me about like limiters. I didn't know what a limiter was. And then he said, listen, it's really important that you understand the delineation between the correct way to do something and whether you like it or not. Everyone in the music world is going to tell you why you did something incorrectly. You know, there's, that's too loud, that's too this, that's too this. And he was like, it's really important to like something or not like it, because your taste is what really matters. And it's also going to be your greatest defense. If somebody goes, that vocal's too compressed. That's true if you don't like the way it sounds. That might be the reason. But if you go, no, I compressed it that way on purpose. I like it. Even if it was an accident, if you like how it sounds, then it's the correct way, because taste is everything.
Come on now. That's good stuff, and stuff that people don't talk about enough, especially online. It's and I'm guilty of this too, of saying this is the wrong way to do something, here's the right way. This is a tricky topic because on the global level, he's 1000% right. It needs to sound good to you. And if it sounds good to you, you're good to go. I get comments fairly regularly that say, hey, Joe, I went and listened to some of your music. Your music's terrible. You shouldn't be giving any advice online. So that aside, it's going to happen. There are people who will listen to the same piece of music, and some will say, that's great, and some will say, that's terrible. That's kind of part of being human. Here's why I make music. I make music so that I can hear myself singing the truth back to myself on days when I don't believe it. In other words, I try to make music that I'm proud of. If I make a piece of music and I'm proud of that piece of music, I win. Do I have room to improve? Of course. I'm on a continuous lifelong journey of improvement and becoming a better version of myself. But think about the oxygen masks on an airplane. What do they tell you? Put yours on first before you help those around you, because you can't help anybody if you don't help yourself first. If you're passed out, you can't help the person next to you. I got to make music that feeds my soul before I can worry about whether you like it or not. However, and I almost didn't include this next part, but I think it's important too. While taste is everything, and you got to make something that you're proud of. He mentioned that that's the best defense is, I like the way this sounds. You may not like it. You may think it's wrong, but I like the way this sounds. There is another side to that coin, that it's possible that you just have bad taste. I know. It could be that your taste is underdeveloped. Right? Someone who's never had wine before takes a sip and says, this is disgusting. All wine is terrible. In the moment, that's true for you, but you develop a taste for wine. There's a reason why there's so much wine in the world, right? Here's an example. I regularly go on a rant. I don't rant a lot, but one of my rants is, if you want to have a great sounding acoustic guitar recording, don't record it direct. Don't plug it in and record that. Put a microphone in front of that beautiful instrument and record it that way. You will never get a better sound with a DI than you do with a microphone. I will put that on my tombstone. That's my opinion, of course. That's my taste, but I think it's universally true. And then some people will inevitably comment on a video where I say something like that and say, well, actually, I prefer the sound of DI to a microphone. Now, on the one level, that is absolutely true. You might actually like that better. But what also might be true is you might be fooling yourself. You might like it right now, but it's only because you haven't learned how to record and mix a great sounding acoustic guitar. Once you do that, I propose you won't want to go back to a DI signal because it's so much better. Also, another piece of it is go listen to your favorite acoustic artists. Have you ever heard them use a DI acoustic as the primary sound on a studio album? I haven't heard of any. I'm sure there are some out there, but go listen to James Taylor, Jim Croce, John Mayer, Room for Squares had a lot of acoustic guitars. What do you hear? You hear nice acoustic guitars performed by great musicians captured with a microphone. So my point here is taste can evolve. When you first start out, you may not know what you like yet. You may think that overcompressed vocal sounds good, and it might sound good to you in the moment, but later you might learn, once you develop your ears, that, oh, when I did overcompress that, it caused a lot of sibilance that's really, now that I'm paying attention to it, it really hurts my ears. I don't like that anymore. So I say this to say, there's a difference between just sticking with your taste and fooling yourself. And I think you got to be humble enough to admit that either could be true and continue in your journey. When you're early in the journey, I think you're more susceptible to kind of saying, well, I like it, so then I'm excusing myself from getting better, versus I think I like this now, but I'm seeing that it doesn't sound like anything else I hear in the world. That might mean it's unique and awesome. It might mean I've got some room to grow. And both are valid, good things to learn. All right, that's it for this video. If you haven't seen this one on a common plugin mistake that a lot of people make and how to prevent yourself from kind of spinning your wheels when it comes to mixing, be sure to check out this video. Thanks for watching. See ya.